How's everyone doing? Yes, and ran to the restroom and wanted to grab some water, take care of some stuff real quick before we start. Hey, Kurt and Echo. Hey, Kit Kat. Hey, Rob. Chewy Boots, whoever is out there currently. How you doing, Avrilina?
Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Anne. Welcome to Reaper Toolbox Live Pro Tips. Pro Tips Live. Yes, something like that. I don't know. It's one of those mornings. Is it one of those mornings for anybody else? Or one of those afternoons? One of those evenings, maybe? It's definitely one of those mornings here. So hold on, I'm going to remember to, for now, I'm actually going to remember to deactivate my intro video so I can go back to Facecam and talk to you guys at the end of this. Good, there we go. All right, awesome, fantastic. And now I can see chat, and there we are. And you, yeah, Otter Mama, I feel you. It is that kind of morning. I got a lot unpacked yesterday. But the problem with unpacking is that you don't get anything else done in your life, like actually working on Patreon and miniature painting and all that. So I'm just like I'm so sick of it, and I'm so sick of not having my stuff where I need it. Because I was looking for different miniatures for pro tips this morning, and I was sure that I spotted a box with them in it that was labeled pro tips, and I couldn't find anything this morning. So I was like, today is the day, guys. Today I am going to go and I'm going to unpack everything else. I do not care. I have to get everything in place. Yesterday we got the kitchen sorted, so I could actually cook last night. That was really nice, and the bedroom sorted out. But and then we had a big trash pickup this morning. But I so want to be done with moving. I so want to be done. And I want to know where all of my painting stuff is so that I can plan things. So yes, moving is hard and stressful. No, yeah, I mean, okay. As far as moves go, this has been almost effortless. I mean, I hired movers and I hired cleaners for my old house, and everything went great at the old house. Getting out of it, um, and the drive went pretty well, and it was long, but it worked. And we're adjusting to our new environment. But oh my gosh, I'm so ready to be unpacked at this point. Just walking through the living room and seeing all those boxes and all the boxes here in the hobby room, I'm just ready to like unpack and throw out anything that doesn't fit. Oh Lord, I so want to be done. So yeah. Oh, we just got 3 more weeks of indoor madness, huh? Did they announce it? Did they announce that and I missed it, Justin? That everybody's saying social distance for another 3 weeks, or is that for you specifically, Corrico?
I don't know of anything updating on our end. I think, as far as I know, we're like, I expect to be here till the end of
End of time.
that too.
Hey, Princess Zelda. Yes, I'm back. I'm in my new environment. I'm more or less here mentally this morning. I have a little bit of a sore throat. It's like allergy season out here. So and now I'm gonna make it worse by talking for an hour, but it is what it is. And my eyes are watery, so that's a sure sign that it's allergies. Oof. Yay! But yeah, moving does suck, Scott Beale. Oh my gosh, I'm so ready to be done. So okay, so I'm gonna let you guys tell me what you'd like me to use for Tara's base skin tone. We can do tan skin, we can do rosy skin, or we can do pale flesh. Pale flesh is a bones color. I'm gonna actually go down to minicam. Oh, in the UK, Karunico, thank you. I'm going to go down to minicam and you guys get to choose today. You guys get to choose which skin tone you want me to work with as the main skin tone. So we have tan skin, we have rosy skin, and we have pale flesh. And all of these will work with the blonde, actually. So the pale flesh is very pale, obviously. So we'll have to work with that one to make it work. I get my fountain pen out of view. Everlina, my puppy, is doing actually pretty okay. She doesn't like going downstairs. She has, however, mastered going upstairs. And there's only just one flight of stairs that she has like kind of a problem. It's a really long flight down from our apartment. So I think I'm going to get her a chest harness so I can kind of help her and support her so she doesn't feel like she's falling downstairs. It's just she's adjusting because she was a ranch house dog forever and she's never had to deal with stairs except when we practiced at Reaper. I did make her practice at Reaper, but we mostly practiced going up because I was worried about her because her hind legs are a little weak. But now she appears to be adjusting that pretty well, and yeah, she just needs help going down. Yeah, we need a user poll. Yeah, on the plus side, you can see all the Reaper streams. See, it's always good to get the silver lining, right, Kroniko? Hi, Sharky. All right, so I see lots of, okay, we need a user poll, Justin. Is there any way to user poll on this? Is it
Yes, there is.
okay, so like if we looking at the skin tones on my monitor right now, if we go tan skin is 1, rosy skin is 2, and pale flesh is 3, will that do it?
Yes, let me go ahead and put it in
Okay,
right
hold on
now.
everybody. Hold on. We're going to vote. I have some other colors to play with over here just cuz I grabbed random things. Hey, Reaper Dave, it's good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Hope Vicky's well too. You vote for Dave. Well, if we're gonna match Dave's skin tone, I don't know. You're kind of rosy, Dave. So maybe we'd pick the middle one. You'll have to vote for 2. I don't have drow skin, Mr. Scott G. So we're not gonna do drow skin today. I'm still unpacking. I am still sorting all my stuff. I have this box up here that is labeled paint, and it is a gigantic box. And then I have another 2 bags of paint, and then I've got a whole drawer full of paint. I have to sort my paint so bad. then you can ask me to do drow skin. Actually, let me actually, Mr. Scott, let me just write that down. I've got a whole bunch of sticky notes here to write down suggestions. I can write down drow skin. We can make a note of that one. Although dark skin and drow skin are 2 different things. If you're on my Patreon, I did do a dark skin, a couple of, at least one, dark skin on 28. Go ahead.
I have 1, 2, and 3 set up. So if you just
All right,
put them on the
guys.
screen and ask
Motor
people
City
to vote,
Ray.
they should do it.
You're not rosy for Dave. So I don't have like dour skin. I don't have anything like that. I don't have anything that's so I think my aspect ratio is off. Grr, I adjusted my camera yesterday because it was silly and I still feel like these are coming off a little narrow. But oh well. Okay, guys, so vote. 1 is tan skin, 2 is rosy skin, and 3 is pale flesh. And it will determine which color we are working with Tara. So go ahead and vote. Go ahead and vote. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And meanwhile, I'm gonna mess around with my camera just a little bit. Because I can. Right? It's a bad idea, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So I can do that. I wonder what that frame is. Nope, that's the other frame. Trying to figure out. I think I just want to do that one. There we go. I'm going to just squeeze it a little bit. Pardon me while I adjust in midstream, guys. I just really want to try to get this a little bit better. There we go. That's more. There we go. Fat bottles. I'm trying to get it so it looks right. And I'm just really not liking how this is doing. Really not liking it. I am so annoyed at my setup right now, guys. You have no idea. Shoom. Haha! We're zooming around a lot. Oh well. We're just going to leave it there, and we're just going to mess with it later, because I just can't deal with it right now. Alright, we're zoomy. Yeah, the thing is that sometimes OBS forgets your source, and so it forgot my document camera after we reassembled it, because I had to move it from David's desk to mine. And so then I had to re-put all my boxes up. And unfortunately, in trying to resize it so that I could make it bigger for you guys to see, I lost my aspect ratio, and so I have to figure out how to fix that. Slightly out of... Well, it's going to be slightly out of focus, Boy Wonder, because we want it to be focused on her. And so she needs to be in focus. So I actually put focus up here. Your paints are going to be out of focus because I don't want the camera down here. So all I'm caring about right now is aspect ratio, and she actually looks good on the camera, so I'm good. Alrighty. So who's the front runner right now? 1, 2, 3. Justin.
It looks like currently we're at. Looks like the front runner is 3. No, actually we have ties. There's 34% and 34%.
Okay, so this
2
one
and 3.
for 2 and 3. All right. It's all about her, Reaper Dave. Yes, it is all about the mini, because we have to focus on the face today. All right. We're voting for which paint I use today, Twisted Oma. So what skin tone do you want me to work with on Tara? Do you want 1, 2, or 3? 1, 2, 3. So change your 1 to 3. 3 is 38% right now. We have a lot of 2s coming in, and we have 3s. Man, you guys are keeping it neck and neck. Rosy skin or pale flesh? 2 or 3? Boop. She's got green. Yeah, we're going to cover up that green on her chest that I did. Alrighty. So what are we at, Justin? Did somebody win?
It looks like, let me look. Yeah, we're actually 2 and 3 are even again at 37%.
You know what? We're just give up. What we're gonna do is we're gonna use this one and highlight it with this one. We'll do both. Maybe I'll. Maybe I can.
3 just pulled ahead 2%.
3 just pulled ahead. Yeah, we got some 3s. Casmania, actually, out of all of these, as far as what the easiest to adapt to what any situation, tan skin is by far the most adaptable, is my go-to paint color. I don't even actually keep any of the fair skin or other tan skin colors because I can mix them from this. But these are the 2 that are in the leads, so we need the black cap wins because it's different. This one, pale flesh, is hard to work with. When you're starting with a very pale skin tone, it can be difficult to work with, and often you have to darken it just a tad. So, all right. So 3 is in the. Did you say 3 had pulled ahead, Justin?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let's rock it. So with a blonde, you would normally go pale anyway, but when you're using something really pale like this, it can be hard, right? If you're doing washes, if you're going to do a wash over the face, then starting with a pale skin is actually just fine. Because you're going to add some depth to it when you do a wash. But normally I don't do washes on faces. So I'm going to have to add shadows. I'm going to figure out what to do that. And if I want to darken any skin tone realistically, it usually helps if you use a brown with a little bit of red in it. So Ready Leather is a good call for that. It's 9109. So let's mix it with our pale flesh and let's see how that works. I'm going to put it 1 drop over there. You don't need very much. You really don't want to do very much. You just want to darken it just a little. And any 1 drop with a pale colors usually don't have too much pigment other than white in them. Like they've got more white pigment than anything. So any darker pigment you add in is going to really affect the paint that you're working with. So let's do 6 drops of pale flesh on that 1 drop of Ready Leather. And see what we get. Oh, actually, that's all right. So what we got is it's very dark and it is a bit too brown. So what you can see here is it's kind of pasty and taupey, right? So I could work with this, but it wouldn't look very lively because you see it's not rosy enough and it's not golden enough next to my skin. You see how it's really very muted. So you could get a very cool muted skin tone by doing that. But her hair is so saturated, it's so yellow that it wouldn't work well with her to do this. So when you've got this hair color that's so vibrant, you need a more vibrant skin tone. So what I will probably do is add in a little bit of ruddy flesh. And that you can see is very yellowy. It doesn't have much black in it. So we're going to add 1 drop of that and see what we can do. So now we're at 6 drops of pale flesh, 1 drop of ruddy flesh, and 1 drop of... Oh no, I over-ruddied. Let's see if I can scoop that out. Sometimes if you scoop a bunch of it out, you can get close. Yeah, there we go. I scooped 1 drop worth out. And so now, now that's warming it up a lot. That's actually a much more interesting tone. Let's see. Let's put some of that over here. I want to actually add a little... I actually like that skin tone. Let's work with that. Let's see if we can make it work. General Reaper paint question. I know pretty much all of them. What is the main difference between corset and bones? Motor City Ray, actually... The bones set was kind of well, first there was the corset. The corset is made to have all the special function paints like clears and liners and primers and flow improvers and all that crap. So that's part of it. Then we made the HD line, which is no longer around right now. And the HD line was made for higher coverage. So essentially I got a few more bases in my repertoire and access to a few more pigments that were higher coverage. So I was able to create a little bit more, a higher coverage paint out of the bottle. And we also got access to a base that was slightly thicker, and that helped with that. So, but I didn't have some of the tools yet that I had later on. So essentially those colors were a little bit muted. I wasn't able to get as bright as I wanted to be. So Ed, in his infinite wisdom, decided that he wanted a Bones branded paint line, and he wanted it to be high coverage like the HDs, because obviously you're going to be putting a nice layer, base layer over your bones, which you don't even have to thin. So the Bones paint line was created using the formulations, like a lot of the same chemistry as the HD line. And so that's the difference, is it's really made to be higher coverage. I also had access to a couple of different tools at the time I did the Bones line, so I was able to make brighter colors that still covered decently. Where is my water bottle? There it is. So I'm going to add a little bit of water, add a little bit of water, add a little bit of water. Okay. Great. So we'll see if this is warm enough for her hair, if it's going to work. I'm still thinking I might need to make it a little yellower. Hello, Valandar. Hello. But yeah, so that's the difference, Motor City Ray. The Bones paints are, like the old HDs, are made to be higher coverage, a little bit thicker. That's generally it. They work fine with the MSP. The MSP are made to work really well for layering and glazing, because those are the key techniques that a lot of miniature painters use. So essentially you have to doctor the core line a little bit less to get it where you want it. Which was kind of my goal, because when I was creating MSP core, I was coming off of using a lot of thicker paints, because Vallejos were almost the top paint line back then. And well, and now Motor City Ray, we are bringing some of the HDs that were more popular back into the Bones line at the end. So yeah. So that you can get some very useful colors that way. All right, so I start dark with my skin tones, guys. So we're going to start with this, and we're going to see if it's going to be saturated enough to work with that blonde hair color. And I think it's going to be, because we're mostly going to cover it up. We're going to be covering it up with a lot of highlights. And I may need to actually put some shadows in, even darker than this, so we'll see. And usually what I'll do is I will put a dark line between the face and the hair, especially when you're doing a fair-skinned model. It can be difficult to create a delineation between that fair skin and the fair hair. So you often will want to put a dark lining. You'll want to use lining to put a dark shadow there. Now, first we'll block in all this, and then I'll do that. You usually don't want to use a really dark liner. Like brown liner is usually too dark on a fair model like this. So you usually want to use a more of a medium brown. So I might use ruddy leather. And yes, you can paint right over green stuff, guys. Like, I almost never prime my green stuff. The only time I would prime green stuff after I did a layer instead of just painting right over it would be if my green stuff was in an area that's going to have a lot of hand contact. Like if it's an area where I'm going to end up touching it accidentally a lot, then I might do it then. But otherwise, I find if it's a recessed area like the skin, you really don't need to prime it. You can just paint right over it. That will show you all of your failures in your green sculpting. The only Reaper paints from the survival kit. Oh, great. I'm glad that you like the Dragon White, Valandar. Alrighty here. So I find it interesting that this looks so dark on the palette, but then when you put it on the model, it actually looks lighter. Hello, Jennifer. Oh, there was a disturbance in the matrix? Did we get a little bit of a flicker in the internet? Up. Boom. All right. Okay. I had a little bit of a blurf there, guys, so I tried to fix it. So hopefully we're good. You're in the cult of Walnut Brown, Loam, yeah. There are a lot of Walnut Brown cultists out there, so you're in good company. That's all I can say. There we go. I think everything looks good on my end. Since it is a new internet connection, I'm always kind of paranoid that something's going to happen. I'm going to put a second coat on this. So I have a nice solid coat to work from. A lot of people, I know some people I know are not a fan of Werner faces, but I actually find them very easy to paint. So I actually like Werner's faces. I'll put one more layer down here. Yeah. I swear to you guys. Well, actually, Justin, I did go through the AMA thread in our Discord, and I did write down enough questions to do an AMA tomorrow for everybody. If we're
perfect.
Yeah, if we're still up for that. So tomorrow is Casual Friday. I'll wear my ReaperCon t-shirt instead of my polo, and we can have an AMA, and I will go through your painting and paint questions from the Discord. There were some good ones this time. So, and I still didn't get through them all, so we still have more for the next AMA. Have we been keeping track? Like, we've only gotten a couple of subs, right, Justin, toward our next one?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Oh, you got a flicker too, Princess Zelda? Odd. Chewy Boots, somebody can link for you. Somebody link the Discord, please, so Chewy Boots can join. Let's see here. Now I'm going to do some lining. Yeah, I kind of left a dark shadow up there anyway, but it's gray and I don't like it. Maybe I'll close that up and then put a line in again. I mean, you could just keep the dark gray line between the hair and the face. I just don't like it as much. Alright, so let's put her down there. Get some ruddy leather to use as our liner. It's also what we're going to fill in our eyes with. There. Oh, thank you for the gift sub, Numbat. Yeah, I know, Dr. Scott, Mr. Scott G, right? Actually, yes, I unpacked clothing, and we set up the bedroom because we had to actually sleep in it. And then I unpacked my kitchen because priorities. I like to cook. And we're saving a lot of money by cooking in right now, so not eating out. So yeah, I unpacked. I finally got my kitchen almost all sorted yesterday. I just need to sort my baking stuff, which is the majority of my stuff. I bake a lot. Let's see if this is going to be dark enough. Good morning, Balrog. But yeah, the hobby room gets sorted today if it kills me. And the hobby is, actually, I joke about my baking stuff being a ton of boxes, but the real ton of boxes is my hobby stuff. So I'm glad that I thinned down and gave away as much stuff as I did before I left, because I don't know what the heck I'd be doing, because I feel like I don't have enough room. I'm going to have to prune again while I'm here. I did move from a house, a 2 bedroom, very small house, to a 2 bedroom apartment that already had David in it. So, you know. All right. So I'm just pretty much going across that dark gray line that used to be there. I'm going with my ruddy leather, my 9109, just to make it a little bit of a warmer shadow. And you could just leave the dark gray and probably nobody would notice it was dark gray. But I think I'm going to put a shadow under her jaw here. So adding in shadows is something you can do. Normally I start dark with my skin tone, so I don't have to. But for here, there are definitely a couple places where I felt like I wanted a little more shadow. So bringing that in, kind of tuning it, putting that shadow where her head meets her neck. You can also use a little, what I'm doing is I'm mixing a little bit of the ruddy leather into the skin tone, which of course already has ruddy leather in it, so it's working okay. And you can just get the underside of her chin and her jawline there. And especially if you're doing a larger model, like one of the giants or an ogre or a bust, putting that shadow underneath the jaw is a really good idea. Oh, you know what we need? We need some blush. I need to see if this will work. I grabbed some Runic Glow to see if I could mix a good blush color for her. So let's put that up here. Gotta make sure you guys can see the pink. So Runic Glow is a real cool pink. That's a little bit bluish, and it's a fairly strong pink. Do I ever use a wet palette? Bregor, yeah, so, okay, so I've talked about this before, but I'm going to talk about it again. So, I never use a wet palette. My style of painting uses a lot of, you can see, a lot of thinned paint. The problem with the wet palette with my painting style is that if I try to mix my paint to the thin consistency I want, the water will wick down into the sponge and I will lose my paint consistency. So what this allows me to do, what the wet palette allows me to do, is mix my paint to exactly the consistency I want, and then it stays that way. It frustrates me to try to mix the thinned paint I need and then have the wet palette kind of screwed up. Now, if you are speed painting, or and on occasion I have used a wet palette for speed painting, where I'm using thicker paint, doing a lot of wet blending, then the wet palette shines. So if you're using a larger brush and you're using, like a lot of the European painters will paint like this, like Sergio does, a bigger brush and a wet palette and thicker paint, that's where the wet palette really shines, because with thicker paint and a bigger brush, you can load up your brush, it stays wet on your brush, the wet palette keeps your paint wet, and it's not really going to affect your consistency because you're using thicker paint. But the minute you want to like thin something really thin, like this skin color here, is really thin. See how see-through that is? It's really water in here. And if I tried to do that on a wet palette, all that water would wick into the sponge. So actually, Elaverne, I do paint armies on occasion. I have an Eldar army. And I do the same sort of thing. I mean, for base coats, I just mix it in the palette. It's just the way I paint. But the minute I go to highlight anything, I want to keep that at the consistency that I want it, right? So, I mean, this is why I don't finish my armies very fast, because I paint them pretty nicely. But I use the same technique when I'm doing army painting. I mean, the other thing is, obviously there's also airbrushing, right? That's a whole different keg of worms. But all of these things are tools. And what you should do is try all of them and then see which one suits you the best. So if a wet palette is really the way that you want to go, go with it. Just give the wet palette a try, if you feel like it, right? But don't feel like you have to use one or the other. There is no superior. Neither one is superior to the other. It just makes certain techniques and paint consistencies easier for you, less frustrating. And it'll make some things harder. Like with glazing, for example, where you want a very thin paint, you pretty much have to mix every brush full of glaze every time if you're using a wet palette, which doesn't bother some people. They could do it just fine. For me, it frustrates me. I want to keep everything, I want to have this puddle of skin color at exactly the consistency I want it for an hour or two, because I'm working, especially if I'm working on an army or a group or 2 models that have similar colors, I want my paint to stay where I need it. But then I layer a lot. So I'm looking for smooth blends. If you are trying to block things in more and you're not going for smooth blending because you're painting an army, it makes sense to use a wet palette. It's just but you can paint armies using the wet palette. You can do all of it with both. It's just what's easier, what is more suited to things, right? When I took Sergio's class, I had to use a wet palette to paint for both days of the class. Because that's the way he was doing it, and I wasn't going to buck the trend. So that was when I realized the association between brush size, paint consistency, and the type of palette. So for me, I couldn't use this brush, which has a very thin, fine point. You can see, there you go, see it against my palette? So that is a really thin point. I could not use that in Sergio's class, because if you try to put thick paint on a brush that's like this, the paint will thicken and dry. Like, it won't stay at the right consistency on the brush. There's not enough paint. This brush doesn't hold enough paint to keep thicker paint wet for as long as you need it. But a bigger brush, like one of my bigger Raphaels or my bigger Da Vinci's, were just fine with that thick paint and that wet palette. So that's the other correlation also. But this brush is amazing for layering. So... But yeah, so I mean, anybody who tries to tell you that there's like one best way to paint a mini, don't listen to them. There's not one best palette, there's not one best brush, there's not one best technique. There is only what works for you, and what works for you is going to vary depending on the techniques you prefer, the thickness of your paint, the palette you prefer, the brushes you're using, all of that. All of that is going to... So here, you can see I make mistakes too. See, I wobbly-eyed her. So essentially, I fill in the eye socket first before I add the eyes, or even shadows there. And you can see I got a little bit down under her cheekbone, so I'll touch that up. But I always fill in the eye socket, and often I fill it in with an even darker color than this. But she's going to have such light skin, I didn't want to go with my usual black and brown or walnut or brown liner. So I'm going to paint a little bit on her cheekbone and touch up that eye. Yeah, that's much better. That's much better. This one got a little high. She could also be a little bit crooked in the face, which does happen on sculpts sometimes. But I think that's good enough. There. You can fix it. There we go. That's actually good. There we are. It's much better. As far as blush, I normally do not use Runic Glow. But because we're going to be working with her up to such a fair skin tone, I wanted to use something that was a little lighter than what I usually use. Usually for blush, I will use a dark red and mix it into the skin, to the base skin tone I'm using. So kind of like I did here. So no matter what I use, here, let me slide this over. Okay, so this was taking our skin mixture, putting it over there, and adding some Runic Glow. And so I've made this nice blush color now that's going to work with the face. So I can put that into the cheekbones. The thing is, it's not terribly darker than our base coat, but it doesn't have to be because we have to put our highlights on. And sometimes I do like to put the blush on and then come back with highlights, because then while I'm highlighting, I can blend in the blush color. I do the same thing for lip color, by the way. Although with that, I usually will line the mouth. Let me see here. Hey, Freely. Okay, glad that explained that. Yeah, good, excellent. I'm just gonna go up and... Oh, good. I'm glad that worked for you, Motor City Ray. Just picking up. Yeah, Karinico. Yeah, you know, if you use a lot of thin paint applications, I really think the Well palette is worth giving a try. Yeah, there is a worst paint. I don't know. If we got into that, Valendar, if we tried to, like, what's the worst way to paint? I'm sure we could come up with some truly horrendous ideas. Probably, like, using a live weasel would be even worse than a sandblaster. Because the sandblaster would just obliterate your mini, but the weasel would probably leave bite marks and draw blood. So, you also want to line the mouth. And this is where you can put in a lot of expression. And this is actually, I see a lot of beginner painters not do this. So make a note, guys. The same color you use to fill in your eye sockets, you want to put a line in the mouth. Sometimes, and this is where you can really do expression, because if you tilt up one end of the mouth, it'll look more like it's smiling or smirking. And if you could easily get into the whole downturned end of the mouth, so you kind of got to watch like your expression, whatever you want her to do. She looks a little snarky now. So often what I will do is try to suggest the shape of the upper lip here. On a 28 millimeter model, you really don't put any color on the upper lip. It's usually just in shadow. So let me grab some pink with this, actually. I usually will put a line around the lower lip, though, or a little bit of a darker color. Let me see here if I can draw this lower lip. 28s can be very difficult to get a good mouth on. I always really admired Jennifer Haley's work because it seemed like she did these mouths just perfectly. And I got a little clown makeup on her, so I'm going to touch that up. Hello, planer. Let's see here. Smoke effect. What do you do with these minis after you paint them? Cybstorm, I've been keeping them. I do. The sad thing is, I know where all my past Pro Tips models are. I do have those in a handy box. My idea for those, Cyb, was to put them up at ReaperCon in the auction in different lots. So that way we make sure that they go to people who really want them for reference. Like, the problem with doing them as giveaways on stream is that some people just come in and drop a hashtag free and then walk out. So they might end up getting a partially painted mini and not even realizing what it's for, not liking it, not just chucking it in the trash. I really want these to go to people who want to use them for painting reference. All right, so I've made her a little bit more smiley. I'm going to try to get real close and trying to get that upper lip to look a little better. It can be rough. I mean, if nothing else, just kind of try to make sure you hit the upper lip like with dark color. If you can't get the mouth to look, to have that Cupid bow look, at least get that much. And then you can essentially get her mouth working. Let's see here. Good. I'm ahead. All right, cool. So if I usually would use skin tone mixed with a red or pink for lip color and blush color. I do the same unless you want her to look like she's wearing lipstick. I use the same color. At this point, since I have that lower lip kind of outlined, I can come in with a bit more pink and make that lip come out a little bit more. And if I want it brighter, if I think it's too close to the face color, I can play with that. Or if I want to make this dark line around it go away a little bit, I can kind of come back with some rosy and kind of paint over that line just a little bit. Make it look more natural. I don't want to lose the line in the mouth, though. So I do have to keep an eye on that. I still have a little bit of a downturn at this side of her mouth. She looks too serious. Well, all right. I guess if that's the way she wants to look, that's the way she wants to look. Now, eyebrows for blondes. Let's talk about eyebrows before I guess I should probably highlight her skin, though, first. Oh, and another place you can put a little touch of blush, and this is more for busts, but it works here too, is sometimes around the nose here. You want to suggest just a little bit of pinkness. I should show you guys my siren bust. I think I can. I mentioned it yesterday, and I'll have to cover part of it, but it'll show you kind of facial highlighting after this. There is now I have a lot more time to paint, or hypothetically I'm going to soon have more time to paint because, once I unpack the rest of the house. But I'm working on some projects I've wanted to finish for a long time, so I'm very happy. Hey, Vaxar, thank you for the sub. Are you keeping track, Justin?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, good, because we're going to do our AMA tomorrow, guys. So I'm going to answer a lot of paint questions. I think I even can give you an idea about these paint questions. We're going to talk about clear brights and liners, and we're going to talk about recipe stuff, and we're going to talk about shading white cloth and what happens to paint when it freezes, and and we're going to talk about which Reaper paints would best represent split primary colors, and we're going to talk about rust effects. Like, there's so many things I can talk about tomorrow in the AMA, guys. And if I find some more gosh darn models, I even could possibly set up some demos. So just real quick demos for you guys on some of that. Or maybe I'll do Rusty Rails on... I think I've got something I could do rust on. I'll have to find it. I really need to unpack this room today. So, all right, so let's highlight our skin. So we're using pale flesh. This is the first time we're actually using our skin color, and we are going to cover over a lot of the shadow area with it. And the first spot you want to hit with it is that forehead, because foreheads definitely catch the light. If you wonder like where to put your highlights, it really is wherever the light would shine down on a figure. These two colors, however, are really dissimilar, so what I think I'm going to do is do a 50-50 mix of each first. So let's do that. Sometimes if you try to highlight over the top of a color and it looks like chunky or it doesn't look smooth, you can either thin your paint more, or if you don't want to thin your paint more, you can do a 50-50 mix of the two colors, and usually that will make them work better together. There we go. Yeah, that's much better. See? So you have two choices when you are layering. Either your colors can be very close together and you can keep your paint thicker, or you can create, or you can thin it more. So if my colors are far apart but they're thicker, I need to mix them so I can make a color that's closer together with both of them to be in the middle. If I just wanted to go up to this, I need to thin this paint more to get it to work. So you can use thicker paint for layering, but if you're going to do that, you really need to thin it a lot. So, okay, so where's light falling? It's falling on anything that's facing upward. So foreheads are rounded and they're facing upward, so you're going to fill in the whole forehead with highlight. You're going to catch that bridge of the nose, and if you can catch the little nostrils, which on Werner's noses are really easy because he's got, you know, really well-defined noses, then you can kind of like highlight over where her little nostrils are. All right, let's move this off camera so we can get the face up there. So now the face is starting to really come out. The next part that you highlight, and you kind of avoid the rosy bit that you put by the nose. You avoid your blush down here, but you need the top of the cheekbone to come out. So you grab that because the light's falling on that for sure. And then do the other one. And now you can see this is really making the face come out, right? We did all this work, all this like underwork. And now we just do a few touches and suddenly the face is a face. Highlights really... But if we didn't put in all these shadows and all these details, the face wouldn't look so good at this point. And I find usually that, 3 layers of color on a face are, as far as highlighting goes, are pretty good. So this would be, like, there's our base coat is number 1. This is our number 2, and our third one will be to go all the way up to the pale skin and make a lot of that come up. Let's see here. I actually am liking this skin tone. Red, yellow, blue skin tones. Honestly, Mr. Scott G, I've mixed skin tones using red, yellow, blue, and white. It's a style. It's an art style. I find it useful to try it at least once in your art career, just because it makes you really work with the primaries and understand warm and cool on a face. But I don't necessarily, well, okay. This is my time to go and get something. Hold on. I'll show you something that I'm working with that on. Actually, I have that bust. I've referenced it like 3 times. I'm going to get it out. So, and we're going to not show you the naked part of it. So let's see here. Let me grab my siren bust and try to avoid stepping on my dog. Because stepping on my dog is definitely not part of the plan. All right. I have avoided stepping on the dog. Now, let's get this out. All right, so do I have sticky tack to cleverly disguise to put a bikini on this model? Yes, I do. Pardon me while I put a bikini on the model. So this is the Nuts Planet Siren bust, which I've been working on for forever. Boom. There, now she has a bikini. Haha, I love sticky tack. All right, so red, yellow, blue. And now you're going to be able to see this a bit more. And I'll do it really quick. So now Reaper model. So, light forehead. Notice the blush on either side of the nose. More blush here. You can see that I'm using a red, yellow, blue. I've got a very golden skin tone. I've got red colors in here. And I've got phthalo in all my shadows. So when I say that it's fun to play with that, Mr. Scott G, I do on occasion. This model seems to warrant it because she is so watery. So I really wanted to use the phthalo in the shadows because she's not natural. Then this is clear magenta. This entire model, actually, guys, is mixed from Reaper Clear Brights. All of it. I am only using Clear Brights to create this model. So yeah, so this is, thank you, Motor City Ray. Yeah, this is a model for me. 39 where you are, Robin? Oh, I'm so sorry. But yeah, so this is my model, because I'm just having fun. So yeah, but she's definitely a red, yellow, blue, and then we've got I wanted her hair to look like surf and stuff, so that's just blocked in. But yeah, so I've been working on smoothing out the skin tones. And this is what I mean, guys, when I say if you want to do thin skin tone, the Well palette and smooth blending, the Well palette really helps you. Because now when I'm working with all these colors, I don't have to remix every brushful to get it to exactly the right consistency for transparent layering. Instead, I can set up all my colors, get them to exactly the consistency I need, and I can proceed to blend. And I can spend an hour blending, and my paint won't really appreciably change texture. So yeah, so there you go. So now you see, if you look, we're doing the same thing. We just don't have as much room, right? This is a 1/10 scale bust, and she's a 28mm model. So where did I put my paintbrush? There it is. But we're putting the highlights in the same places. So, and even the little blush parts. So we've got a nice broad highlight up here on her forehead, just like we have here. And we're going to put shadows under her brows, actually, just like I have shadows here. We've got a little bit of rosiness next to her nose, just like we have here. We're highlighting the top of the cheekbone right there, just like I have here. Now, I can get away with a little less highlighting on this because I wanted to accent some of the blush here to make her look younger. The next part we're going to highlight is going to be this upper lip and the chin, just like here. And then you can see there's your highlight there. And then you usually also have a highlight here on the jawline because you want to bring that out against the shadow of the neck. So where you lose out on the 28mm models, of course, you don't have as much sculpted here, right? So it's not as quite as graceful. But we definitely can do some nice highlighting on the chest area. So yeah, so you can see these are the parallels. You do a lot of the same stuff. Here you just have more room to work on a bust. And that's why doing a bust can be super fun. So, you know, as Reaper comes out with those Julie busts, and I finished one and left it for Ron before I left Texas, you know, you could practice on those and get a feel for how faces work at a larger scale, and then you're just compacting it when you get down here. But it can be very pleasurable to do busts because you have so much nice room to work, and you can get all those details in. You know, you can bring up a picture of your favorite movie star and try to duplicate her hair and skin colors, stuff like that, you know, and her lipstick. So there you go. There's a combo shot for y'all. And then you got a bonus shot of the model I've been working on in the evenings. Alrighty, so now that we've looked at that, let's go and do those highlights. Let's see here. Oh, good. Princess Zelda. Yeah, feel free. I probably should do like a little face PDF for my Patreon, actually, Princess Zelda, on that siren piece, just to point out stuff. Yeah, Robin, you're right. Makes it easier to stay inside the lines when you're working on a big model. Yeah, I wanted to do that. Actually, the reason, Motor City Ray, that siren is all clear brights is that is my easiest travel set. If I have to go to a con and I don't have much room, or I'm on vacation, like visiting my parents or my brother, and I don't have much room for paint in my suitcase, I pick a simple bust. Like that one is only a 2-piece. She's entirely 1 piece, and there's just a little piece of coral that goes in her hair. That's a 2nd piece. So you want to pick a bust that's really unbreakable or very like close to 1 piece. And then I just bring the clear brights, and then if I'm using any particular color, I'll throw that in the bag too. But I bring the clear brights and also the secret clear. I call it a secret clear, although soon it'll be out with the Kickstarter colors. But Ruddy Brown is the secret clear bright from HD. It's a brown oxide. Very useful. So, but then essentially I can mix, because I've mixed all of MSP and because I know all the formulas, I can pretty much mix any color I need on the road just from clear brights. So that's why. So any travel bust, any bust that comes with me on vacations and stuff is going to be a just clear brights project. Okay, so there we got the upper lip. I'm able to kind of give her that one-sided smirk on her mouth now. I like that. I'm very happy about it. I'm going to get her chin. yeah, I highly do recommend, if you want to get better at faces and understand faces better, I do recommend picking up a bust here or there just to play with. I mean, the blending will be harder, so it is a little bit of a good practice for you then if you're trying to work on your blending. I'm going to bring up this cheekbone a little bit and the jawline. The hair is hiding part of her face, so I actually want to put probably a darker shadow underneath that hair, so I'm going to mix in a little ruddy brown to our basic skin tone. Put a shadow under there. Makes it look more natural that way. This side we have got a really nice blush line. We just got a little bit too harsh with our jawline, so we can fix that by bringing in some base coat a little bit. And fudging that out so it's not so harsh. That looks good. And we'll get our highlight. Yeah, there are clear brights. There are all those clear brights, but I also would throw in, and we'll talk about this on the AMA tomorrow, essentially with pigment, you've got Motor City Ray. You're dealing with actually what they call split primaries. This is not true in the world of light and ink necessarily, but it is true in pigment land. So essentially you don't just have one red. You've got a warm red and a cool red. So essentially a red that is toward orange and a red that is toward purple. And then you've got a yellow pigment that's toward orange and one that's toward green. And then you have a blue pigment that's toward red and toward green. And by knowing these and utilizing them, you can get purer, more bright, saturated mixes. So there are 6 clear brights, but there are also other paints that I would recommend to give you the warmer, cool partner for some of those. So both of the reds are in the clear brights. Clear magenta is a bluish red, and it's very utilitarian. I use it a lot. Actually, this is Runic Glow is mostly clear magenta. So clear magenta and then clear red gives you an orangey red and a bluish red. The clear yellow in clear brights is a greenish yellow. So I always say you should also pick up lantern yellow from Bones to go with that. Now, if you only have the bone lines, Motor City Ray, you can also just use canary yellow as your green phase yellow. So canary and lantern are your 2 yellows. Candlelight's a nice midline yellow, but it does have a lot of white in it, which is why it doesn't really qualify as a clear. So you can use lantern and canary. And then for blues, you do really want to pick up clear blue. And the one that is, this is more toward a reddish blue. And then the other one I recommend is cyan blue from the baseline. Or if you have clear phthalo blue from ReaperCon, that's your baby. And then we also put out a phthalo green for ReaperCon. Hypothetically, the ReaperCon colors are going to come out as their own set. I know that Ed was working on that. So you could ask him about that, because that'll get the phthalos buyable again. So in reality, you could use clear green, but clear green is a little bit more of a yellowy green. And the phthalo is more of a bluey green. So you often will find this with pigments, that you will have a cool and a red variant. Or a cool and a warm variant, rather. And technically we have collarbones up here, but it's hard to see them with a 28mm model. Good, Otter Mama. Yeah, that's it. So okay, Motor City Ray, what Otter Mama did, which is my overall. Took the clear brights, a white, a black, a couple of metallics if you need them, and a couple of browns. Ruddy leather, I recommend, and then probably a yellowy color. I usually use russet brown as well. Russet brown is kind of our equivalent of fur burnt umber. So yeah, so there we go. So let's define the boob area there. They need to look round. So I just put a divider line down the middle, but now I need to make these more round. So I'll kind of make a crescent of highlight on each side. And we still haven't put in our top highlights, so we'll come in and do that in a bit. There we go. So we put in that divider line, but now we're thinning it down. And I need some collarbone action up here. And then this chest area will be pretty light. All right, so that's coming along really well then. Can we get an Anne travel pack? You know, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea. So yeah, I'll email Ed about that. That would be a good promotional. I mean, we have a paint sets for Josh's show. So I could totally see putting together an and pack. Ideally, you know, the phthalo green would be in that pack. So we'd have to see if we could throw together some of that. But I could see that. We'll see how many colors we need to go in it, and then I could construct it. So now we're going to come in with our actual highlight skin tone, which is the pale flesh. Now, how pale you want her to look is going to be determined by how much of this you cover the surface area with. So if you want her to be really pale, then you want a lot of this pale flesh to be covering everything. But I think I mostly want her collarbones to come out. I do want the forehead, especially the eyes tend to kind of come out on their own, like the brow ridge of the skull. So I will often put a brighter highlight, like right above the eye where the eyebrows will go, and then I'll do a high highlight at the top. Now, it is not a mistake to take skin tone up to pure white because skin is oily, and so it does tend to be somewhat reflective. So you could highlight up to like a linen white or a bleached linen, or you could highlight up to pure white. Just little spot highlights, though, usually. I'm going to put, essentially, I'm shrinking my highlights. So where I did a larger highlight over the whole cheekbone, now with this pale skin, I'm just going to put a spot highlight, probably just right under her eye. Putting the bright highlight right under the eye also will make your eyes stand out better when you filled in those eye sockets with the dark color like I did. Get this other side. It's got to be real gentle. And having a brush with a really good tip, obviously, is a very good idea at this point. That's coming up pretty well. I want to do just a little bit there. She has very pronounced cheekbones. That's coming along pretty well. Yeah. You could totally hit Ed up with that travel pack idea. This is true. Or I could. Or you can ask him. You can tell him to talk to Anne about a travel pack. It does make you mix. You do learn how to mix. That's for sure. All right, I lost the line in my mouth a little bit. I'm going to fix that, and then I'm going to do some eyes. So I'm going to mix up some white. Now, for tiny models like this, for 28s, I almost always will use pure bright or pure white for the eyeballs. The larger your models get, or the larger the eyes, the more you don't want to use pure white because it's too much. Now, I might be able to use bleached linen, I guess. We'll try it with bleached linen, and we'll see. The thing is that if you have really tiny eyes, like teensy tiny, like some of Patrick Keith's eyes are like that. If you have the tiniest eyes in the universe to paint, you definitely want to use pure white because you're probably only going to be able to leave like little pinpricks of white for the eye, and so you need them to be bright. Whereas, I guess some of the Dark Sword models, the Tom Meyer sculpts, also tend to have very small eyeballs. So using pure white for those can definitely be an asset. I need this a little thicker. You do want it thick enough, if you're going to do the whites of the eyes, that you don't have to go over that more than once or twice. Because obviously you're trying to hit a very small area. So you want it thick enough to cover well, but you need it thin enough to come off your brush well too. So it's kind of this kind of balancing act. The and pack is the entire line. No, please. I have too much paint. You didn't hear me say that. All right, so pick up a lot of this off-white. We're using bleached linen, 9436, right? Am I right? Yeah, I'm right. Woohoo. Slowly, I memorized the bones line. And then you're just going to do kind of a strip of it. You're going to leave that dark around the eye. See it? Yeah, Freestyle, I am back. This is my first week back. Hello, Skelsey. Oh, thanks. Hello to you. All right, I'm doing eyeballs. Let's get the other eyeball done. Another tip, a trick for eyeballs, by the way, or any tiny small details. So let's watch how I load my brush. I'm loading my brush up about, a third to halfway. Then I'm going to kind of put it over here and unload it on the side of my palette. The key here, though, is that I'm flipping it over 180 degrees each time. So what I'm doing then is I'm making it paddle shaped, where it's very, very thin on one edge, but then it's broader. So you use that thin edge to paint really fine details, like the whites of eyes. Though I do need to compact it a little bit. There it is. It can be hard when you've got an eyeball under the hair to get the white of that eye in there. But yeah, making your brush paddle shaped and then using the sharp edge for a very fine detail that you have good access to is a good idea. All right, so I'm probably not going to be able to get much in that eye under the hair. This is the annoying thing about Werner sculpts, right? Is that he tends to sculpt that hair halfway over one eye, and then you can't really get expression in that eye. So right now it looks like she's looking that way because I didn't want to get the white all the way under the hair and leave a blob. So we can utilize that. We can actually make her looking to the side because she is about to shoot somebody. I mean, she's pulling out a crossbow bolt. So let's do that. Let's get a darker color, pure black, walnut, something like that. Walnut brown. Hey, Corsair. Hello, Noon Code. Thank you for the sub. Wow, that's like 4 subs this show, right, Justin?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. Excellent. We are already well on our way. Do you know what we have total toward the next AMA?
I haven't gone back and like looked at the last couple of days, but I think we're at like 7 and then plus this 4, so I'd say 11 ballpark, give or take a couple.
All right. Yeah, all right. That's good. We can get the AMA done tomorrow, and then we can start counting again and make sure that people ask more questions. All right, so I did 2 drops of walnut and 1 drop of water. Walnut is a great color to use for irises and pupils. And on 28 millimeter, I never do a colored iris. I just don't believe there's room. I've tried it. I did pull it off on one model, but then what happened is that when I looked at the model, I really couldn't see it. I had to use magnification to even see the iris in there. And at that point, I decided it wasn't worth it. Some models that have extremely large eyes, you may be able to get away with it. And definitely with larger models like Giants, you can get away with it. Because those are more like 54 millimeter scale or 72 millimeter scale humans. But I find that, yeah, colored irises, if you're going to do it at all, sometimes you have to artificially enlarge the eye at 28 millimeter. I know that Marika and Derek Schubert have done that. I don't like that look, so I just tend to avoid using a colored iris on small models. I tend to keep it for the big ones when I can really go there. So come up from underneath. Try to stop your brush by hitting the eyelid. Because if you look, everybody's pupil intersects your top eyelid. Let me get this a little bit more here. If you manage to do like kind of a cat eye like I did, you want to, since she's going to be looking that way, I can kind of fill in that inner corner. So then I'm going to come up a little bit different angle. I'm going to try to get that inner corner filled in so that she's looking to the side. The reason you come up from underneath, though, is that you want that upper eyelid to stop your brush, and that way your model isn't looking down. It gives you kind of the drop of paint where you need it. This eyeball is just fighting me. See, eyeballs fight even me. It's not just you guys. Don't have to feel alone. That's getting better. I think there's just a little, there we go. Getting just a little corner of this eye that's a little bit annoying. And I lost a little bit of my line around the eye too, so I'm going to grab a little bit of ruddy leather and see if I can get that upper eyelid redrawn. Also, if you want to suggest that she's got long eyelashes, you can darken that upper lid of the eye. It's a little better. Oh, she is missing eyebrows, so we do need to do that. With blondes, you usually want to use a golden color. I could use Ruddy Flesh. I could use Polished Leather. Right now I've got this one in my hand. Let me see if I can find a different color or if I'm just going to use Ruddy Flesh. See, I'm just going to use Ruddy Flesh. Awesome. So any golden brown color, because eyebrows on blondes are usually darker than the other hair, the other part of their hair. So, and you want them to suggest an expression, so you do want it to be a little darker. Grab some water. And if we have to, we can also mix in a little bit of our ruddy leather to make it just a little darker. And you're just going to paint essentially the top of the brow ridge. You've got a shadow there and a highlight. You're going to paint between those two things in kind of an arch. Just try to follow the sculpt. There we go. Makes her look much nicer. Eyebrows are really something that can add to the expression of your model. Minis look a little weird without them, just like people look weird without them. There she goes. Now she's kind of looking to the side. Yay! I make that look so easy. Well, brush control, it's a thing, right? So one of the things that helps you is thinner paint. One of the things that helps you is a really fine brush to use with your thinner paint that will come to a really nice tip when it's behaving, which is behaving now. So something like that really does help. You could try a Reaper Aught 5 or Aught 10, or if you like a longer brush like me, this is a Da Vinci Maestro Series 10 size 1. It is the brush I use for almost all my competition painting. So there, she's got eyebrows, she's got a mouth, she's got eyes, she's got boobs, she's got highlights and shadows, oh my. Hey, I think we pulled it off, guys. Now, the one thing I could try to do is a specular highlight in her eye to give it a little more life. So I'll try to do that. Let's try to, it can be really rough.
It looks pretty good, actually.
Yeah, considering I painted it on stream and didn't really futz with it, but I mean, all things considered, I think she does look pretty decent. She looks pretty decent to me, and I'm sitting here staring at her. So, if you wanted her perfect, you'd must mess around with it for another hour. But all right, let's see if I can get a highlight. So sometimes you want to put a highlight at the top. I might need a little more water. You do need your paint thin enough when you're using these tiny brushes. These brushes with really fine tips. You do need a little bit of water in your paint. Otherwise, it won't come off your brush because the thin brush wants thinner paint to work. These brushes are originally watercolor brushes, and you can tell when you're trying to do this little stuff. So one thing you can do is kind of put it on your hand here and see how small of a dot you can do before you put your brush. There. Perfect. Haha. I have a tiny highlight at the top of her eye now. And I do want to clean up that area a little bit. So let me do this. Actually, I think that looks pretty darn good in person. Yeah, I think it does. All right, it doesn't need that much cleanup. I was going to clean up a little bit under her eyes, under her brow, but I think she works. That was lucky, guys. Like, normally, I can't get that specular highlight onto a 28 millimeter mini that fast, one go. That was total luck. Usually, I have to redo it a few times, just like everybody else. But yeah, so that worked, and there she is. There's our Tara. She has hair and skin and shiny black leather. So I'll put her in the box with my other minis for pro tips, and I will bring them to ReaperCon, and we can put them up in the auction. Any questions before we wind down? Or do I ever wash or glaze the face? That's a good question, MCC War. So if I was going to do a wash, I would have done it straight up. And if I was going to do a wash on any face, it would only be like 28 millimeter or smaller. I would never do it on a bigger model. I want, the problem with the wash is it's going to color the whole skin, and it's not really going to cling in some of the areas I need. Or if it does cling to places like the cheekbone, it's not going to have the color in it that I want. Because like I did the blush as a rosy color, but for shading the skin, I'd want a different color. So that's, I guess, why I don't really put a wash on a face anymore, is that there's no one size fits all wash for me, because I do a lot of shading with kind of a reddish color, and then I do shading with darker skin color. So to make a wash work on this face, I would need to mix an even darker version of this, and then I would need to actually base coat with this and put the wash over the whole thing, which you surely can, but I consider it, it's more for speed, And if I'm trying to paint a nice model for Reaper's Gallery, then I don't want to do that because I want more control. Glazing I would use. Like if I decided that I wanted this to be more integrated, for example, like her chest is a little rough, or I see that I can see brush strokes, I would absolutely mix a glaze of either my medium skin tone or my really, really pale skin tone and put a glaze over the whole thing. So to show you what that would look like, let me just glaze her chest with a light color. And glazes are colored water, like, see? Like, you can still see some pigment in it, but if you stretch it out, it's really, really thin. See that? That's how thin it is. So this might even be a little bit too much. Because that's what you see there is how much it's going to color that surface. So the lighter the color that you're working with for a glaze, the more water you have to add. You have plenty of questions, but you space them out. Well, that's good. Let me glaze her chest area. And I'm going to just get a little bit of paint. And I'm going to paint it over the whole area. And what a glaze is going to do is it's going to kind of lighten, if I'm using a light glaze like I am here, it lightens the whole area. I'm going to lose that shadow between her breasts a little bit. I might need to come back and re-accentuate. But it did lighten the whole area, and it does make the collarbone brush marks blend in a little better. Usually it's easier if you're just starting with glazing to work with darker glazes. It's very difficult to pull off lighter glazes sometimes because they want a streak. They want to do chalky. So it's definitely kind of a getting used to things, how you do lighter faces. There we go. We did her skin, and you can see that me painting right over the green really didn't, affect anything badly. So there you go, guys. Guess I could have done her belly too, but we're actually over time, so I should pull it out. So let's go back to my face cam. Hi, guys. So yeah, there we went. We had fun. And and I think that skin tone worked out pretty well. Like, I think it actually works with the blonde hair quite well. I'm going to make a mental note for the future. How you doing, Justin?
I'm doing well.
All right, just checking in on you. Have you found a raid for us yet?
Yes, I have. I was waiting for you to finish your demo.
Yeah. Oh, yours looks blonde. Oh, yeah, actually, Motor City Raid, go and watch, I think, do we do her hair on Monday, Justin? I think we did. Yeah, because Tuesday.
We did her hair first, so yeah, so it would be Monday.
So Motor City Raid, go back and watch the VOD from Monday, the YouTube for Monday. That's when I do the hair, and I actually mixed a blonde tone out of yellows, so I show you how to make it less yellow. All right. Yes, thank you all for tuning in. So who are we rating?
Jimmy the Brush.
Jimmy! Hey, Jimmy's back. Good. Awesome. Fantastic. I like Jimmy. He's entertaining. Super. Thank you all for tuning in. And make sure you go over and pass on the Reaper love. And tomorrow, tune in for the AMA. We're going to talk about all sorts of interesting things. I can't wait. Alrighty.
Thank you very much, guys. Don't forget to watch Painting Platinum today at 3 and then
Sadie.
Reaper Live.
Yeah, and Reaper Live, they when you can pummel Ed and Ron with questions. You don't want to miss that. See you later, guys. See you tomorrow morning.
Thanks, guys. You have a great night.